Oh, yeah, we do
look at that lighting.
Hey guys! This is The Honesty Issue. I'm Sky.
And I'm Katie.
And today we're going to be talking about addiction. Some types of addiction include self-harm, smoking, drugs, alcohol, but this video is kind of going to be open for all types of addiction. Yeah, of addiction. And we just kind of wanted to cover it wider scale. The first step is admitting that you have a problem. Denial is a huge issue in addiction, and a lot of people see addiction as, oh no, I only socially drink, or I only hurt myself when it's really bad, or this is just my coping mechanism. An addiction is never a coping mechanism.
We just use it to replace a coping mechanism.
And these are serious, and it's a sickness, and so it needs to be taken as seriously as possible. And it's not something that will come clearly to you. I don't think for anyone that's like, oh shoot, I'm addicted. I don't know if I've ever had that moment where I'm like, oh wow.
I had that moment where I thought, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Like, I should do something about it. But I don't, it took me a really long time to be like, oh, I'm addicted to self-harm.
I think it's, unfortunately, a gradual process, and you just kind of have to keep your eyes open for it. And the thing is, if you're doing any harmful or risky behavior enough, it's going to be harder to notice that it's a gradual process until it's too late. And that's what you have to keep your eyes open for.
When you're in denial, I think the hardest thing is when other people are telling you that you have an addiction and you still don't see it that way, even if you have like an intervention.
Yeah.
It still doesn't mean it's going to click. I don't think it clicked for me until I went to therapy and they're like, this is an addiction. I didn't even think self-harm could be an addiction. Or eating.
But it can ruin relationships, it can ruin your education, your talents, your future. It's something that consumes you. Unfortunately, like I said before, only people notice it until it's too late sometimes.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for me was being humble about it. Like, okay, you know what, maybe this is a problem. Since when is accepting help a bad thing? I should be open to that, and I wasn't.
So there are 12-step programs that you can go to for whatever addiction that you are currently struggling with. And basically it's just a meeting that other people who have addictions will be at, and you just kind of talk about the struggles that you've had that past week and things that have worked and haven't worked for you, and you just kind of bounce ideas back and forth. I went to the 12-step program and actually completed it this past spring. It was huge for me to do that. I think the biggest thing with the 12-step program is if you start going and you complete the program, you should continue to go, which is something that I'm not very good at doing. It's the same thing with therapy. Just because you go a few times and you feel like you've made progress doesn't mean you can stop going. I had a friend of mine kind of explain it to me how when people are alcoholics and they go to AA meeting, and someone who's been 20 years clean will still go to his AA meeting every week.
Exactly, it just doesn't go away, and that's the tough part. But I know a lot of times group therapy can be used for the same kind of addiction group, where I think even the one that we went to, we kind of were the only people dealing with the troubles that we had, where others were dealing with alcoholism or drug abuse, or pornography was a big one too, or sex addiction. And although it was harder to relate, just because
they're so different.
Yeah, it was different, but it was the same kind of urge to do something. That same release or relief that you find through that way, and getting over it and finding a healthier way to do that.
If things get really bad and really out of hand, there are definitely other treatment options, including an inpatient option, which most people will just call rehab. The rehab, I think, is really great. It worked really well for me, and I've been 3 times now.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Again,
go as often as you need to.
This is a judge-free zone. Yeah, but it's a serious thing, and it's hard to talk about because addiction is so serious. I think people are afraid of it. You know, the image of an alcoholic is usually, you know, some guy all bruised up in a wife beater. And, you know, that's not always the case. It can come a lot closer to home. And I think the stereotypes kind of make it harder to talk about, for sure.
Being open about your addiction is super important too. And I have found that if I tell someone that I would want to self-harm in any way, if I tell someone I want to do it, then that automatically will give the power to someone else.
Yeah, they're aware and they'll take care of you as much as they can. And being open about your addiction, just like the honesty issue, is that being honest about things eliminates the stereotypes and the stigma against these mental illnesses, and that is so vital if we're going to move forward and get better as a whole universe.
Also, it's okay to relapse. Relapse is just part of recovery.
Yeah.
Some people will relapse more than others.
And we're not encouraging relapse, for sure. It's going to happen, but it's just important to know that that doesn't mean you have to go back to it. You've made all this progress and moving forward, you don't want to go back.
I think it's important to remember that if you relapse, that it doesn't mean that all the progress you've made doesn't matter or goes away. Relapse is just a minor step back in a long road to recovery.
And all of the lessons and skills that you're learning to get better are still in there. They're just kind of distracted again by going back to it. And that's okay, but it's not good to stay there.
The last thing is to try and be mindful of your friends and family and watching for their addictions, especially if you know they struggle with them.
Yeah, watch their behaviors, their mood, you know, just check up on them. And it doesn't have to be an obvious thing like, hey, when was the last time you had something to drink? It can just be, hey, you know, how are you feeling lately? Like, you can talk to me about this. That's okay.
If you have a friend or a family member who struggles with an addiction, don't only be there for them when they're struggling.
The same thing as just being a good friend.
Yeah, just be a decent human.
Just be mindful, be aware, watch for the signs, which is especially important. If something bad has happened to them recently, they're more likely to go back to that. You just want to keep an eye on them through that.
Another thing is to remember that that urge to do something is only going to last 15 or 20 minutes. And then if you fight that, it usually will go away.
Wait it out with them. Take them to a movie or
go for a walk with
them. Go for a walk. Point is, just be there for them, and if you're dealing with something like that, be there for you. Be strong enough to say, hey, I can't be alone right now, or I can't be in my house right now. I can just go for a walk or listen to a really good song, call somebody, and it'll go away. If you are looking for a group therapy group, I know that most churches offer them, some hospitals do, some clinics as well. And they're all really nice people. They're just trying to get better, just like you and I and Katie. I think it's worth checking it out if you're feeling like you have a problem. It's not good to just sit with that and be stuck.
If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to ask us anything in the comments below, also on our Twitter, Tumblr, or Facebook, or email.
We'd love to address those in any way that we can in future videos and help you out. We hope to see you next time. 1, 2, 3. I'm talking with my hands a lot.
Because you're from Jersey.
Okay, backwoods.
I'm offended.
I blow through it. Okay.